Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Boozer here. Thanks for dropping by. Today's video I want to talk about faction wars, but I want to talk about it strictly from a early game, mid game, maybe low spend kind of perspective. I want to give you guys some pointers on which champions are going to help you the most, not only in faction wars, but actually give you the most benefit for your account. Because what we want to avoid doing is making single purpose champions just for faction wars if we can help it. So I'm going to give you guys a little bit about my own experience, about my journey through faction wars. It was a long time ago, but hopefully you guys can pick up some useful info from what I have to say and then make some better decisions for your own account. So let's jump right into it. All right guys, so faction wars here. So as you know, main prize here is Lydia. She's an incredible champion even after 4 years or 5 years, however long she has been in the game. Her signature move is this 3-turn cooldown, defense, decreased defense and weaken with the strengthen and speed up on your whole team. Still one of the best champions in that regards. She is the main prize, and if you guys did not know, back in the day, 819 was all you needed to get her. So this sacred shard here, I believe, was the final reward just before we got Lydia. Now, obviously, there has been 2 more factions added, so Shadowkin and Sylvari Watchers, which makes the overall journey much more arduous to get her now. Now it's up to 940 stars, and you have to complete 2 more factions. So the way you do this is you have to basically 3-star every single level all the way up to 21, and it can be actually very difficult for somebody starting off in the early game. So I'm going to go through each faction with you guys, and I'm going to give you guys my kind of top champions to invest in, especially if you are early game or mid game. And I'm going to assume that you won't have incredible shard luck, so I'm going to try to stay off the legendaries as much as possible. So let's jump right into it. So for the Bannerlords faction, without any real free Legos provided by the game, I'm going to assume you guys have no Legos doing faction wars, but there's some really good epics in this faction that's going to really help you guys out. Number 1, Archmage Helmet. You get him from the normal Doom Tower, so it's really important to obviously try your best in whatever content and get as far as you can. Collecting the fragments for Archmage Helmet. Once you get him, he's incredible because he has this AoE stun ability. He's definitely a instant 60 kind of champion. Give him the banner, give him the accuracy, make him fast. He's going to lock down the waves for you. After that, we have Stagnite, incredible champion, even to this day, still very good. He has the AoE decreased attack, which is very important, keeps your team alive, and the decreased defense. He has good base stats, and he has an A1 decreased speed, which is actually really nice against some bosses as well. So he stands out to me for this faction. Lastly, if you guys actually have her, she's incredible. She's going to carry your Faction Wars team completely if you have her. Ursula the Mourner. She has a team revive with the increased defense, strengthen, very high health on the revive, and then full 50% turn meter here. Incredible revive, so no aura or anything like that. She also brings decreased defense as well in an AoE. Very good champion. Base stats a little bit lacking, but the revive makes her incredible for faction wars. So if you have her for Bannerlords, she's going to be a nice carry for you guys. Moving on to High Elves. High Elves is actually considered one of the easier factions, especially if you can pick up Arbiter. So by the time you pick up Arbiter, this faction should be basically very easy to complete. So once you pick up Arbiter, she's probably going to be one of the best champions on your roster, assuming you don't have incredible luck. And she's going to carry any 4 champions with her through faction wars. Of these epics that kind of stand out, we have Tyrell. Tyrell brings a AoE decrease defense. And then he also brings conditional sleep, and he has this single target turn meter reduction, which is kind of good in some situations. He has an A1 decreased attack, which is good for clan boss. So this is what I mean by champions that you can invest in that have multiple use cases. Tyrell is a champion that can be used in dungeon crawling, clan boss, and of course he's very good in faction wars. Rollguard's going to be another champion that's going to be really good for faction wars as well as other areas of the game. He brings a lot of damage, he brings decreased speed. some turn meter reduction, and then a decreased defense on his A1. Not going to be the easiest to gear because he is actually a damage dealer and he doesn't have great base stats to stay alive, but he will give your account a lot of use for a long time. And even this faction has an honorable rare mention, Apothecary. Apothecary is one of the greatest, rare champions in this game still. He has the increased speed for your whole team, and he has a big heal, and then he has a triple hit. So you can use them in various areas. You can still kind of use them in Fire Knight, if you're still like progressing through Fire Knight, and he's just a general good support. Like, you can use him for many areas, especially early on in the game. So he deserves a shout out here as well. All right, let's pop over to the Sacred Order. So Sacred Order here, gonna assume you guys have no legendaries. Hopping over to the epics. So some of the best champions here are Deacon Armstrong. Deacon Armstrong is incredible, and he's actually a free champion with a promo code when you start this game. So if you guys just literally started this game, I definitely recommend Deacon Armstrong. You guys can check out one of my videos. I do have a promo code for him when you start the game. He has the speed in all battles aura, which is very important. He has a turn meter boost on your whole team, and then he gets an extra turn, and then he places a decreased defense on a 3-turn cooldown. It's perfect setup. And then he even has an A1 leech, which is really good for clan boss or bosses in general. Not insane base stats or anything, so a little bit squishier for support, but insane carry. He's going to be great in faction wars as well. The other big champion here is actually Cardinal. Cardinal's actually really good because she has the team revive. And of course, when you're fighting waves and stuff, you can kind of like pick and choose your spot when you use this. She has like some use cases in arena too, but otherwise she's going to be a super hard carry for faction wars. Godseeker is really good as well. She brings basically 2 revives. She has a revive on her passive, and then she has a single target revive in her kit. She has some heals, and an A1 heal, A2 heal. She hits decently hard as well. Not incredible base stats, but she has a lot of utility, and she can be used in many areas as well. Clan boss, Sand Devil, for example. So definitely don't be afraid to invest in those champions, especially for faction wars. They would definitely help you in faction wars and lots of other areas. So let's hop over to the Barbarians. So Barbarians has been known to be one of the easier factions to complete, namely because Seal of the Drakes. Seal of the Drakes, an incredible champion. I love this champion. She was one of the first legendaries that I basically booked out on this account. On my first account I ever made, she was one of the first legendaries I ever booked out, and you basically get her at day 180. So you guys can kind of see how long it took me to get like a usable legendary. But after you pick up Seal of the Drakes and you build her out properly, she basically hard carries you through most wave-based content. So most dungeons she can get you through. Doom Tower waves, faction wars becomes super easy because of her. The thing is, she has a multi-hit AoE stun. She has a single turn revive with the ally protection. And she has a passive that basically heals your team every time she takes a turn. She has defensive base stats, which makes her quite tanky. She has A1 decreased speed as well. Just a really good support champion. She's not there to do damage, but she's there to basically carry your whole team. And because she exists and because she's free for this faction, it makes this faction incredibly easy once you get her. Okay? And unlike Arbiter, you will get her at day 180. So that's something to look out for. If you guys need help, she is there for you at day 180. However, if you want to tackle this faction without her, there's actually some really good epics here. So namely High Katoon. High Katoon, you get her after 1 month. She has the speed aura, which is very good, universally good. And then she has a AoE decreased turn meter. She has the speed boost with turn meter boost on her A2, and then she A1 decreased speed. She's basically here to support, make your team faster with the speed aura, with the speed boost, and then the turn meter pushback on her A3. So she's just kind of here to help your team get more turns against the enemy. Good support champion, decent overall base stats. I mean, she's free, but yeah, she does quite fine. So beyond High Katoon, there are a couple epics here that can help you kind of control waves for faction wars. Like Hoskrul here, he has a very strong AoE stun. So it's AoE stun. It's not 100%, it's only 75% chance, but it's on a 3-turn cooldown. He also has kind of like a very weak cleanse with increased defense and increased resistance, so further support for your team. He's not going to be anything insane, but for faction wars, he's going to be quite good. And if you need somebody to control the waves, having a 75% stun with the decreased turn meter on a 3-turn cooldown is actually very, very strong. I believe Arman's the Magnificent has a 100% stun. So he's going to be one of those champions that you guys should look out for. But if you're brand new to the game, you won't have Arman's yet, obviously. You won't be able to get him right away. But Oscarol has a similar type move to Arman's, just not as good. Obviously, he's an epic. After that, we have Armina. Armina has the AoE decreased defense with the 100% decreased defense on the 3-turn cooldown. He also has some turn meter stealing. And then she has a 3-turn cooldown decrease turn meter as well with the chance to place a stun. She can actually control quite a bit of wave activity, so she's actually really good for that. Her base stats are a little bit on the weaker side, so she has like more attack than she has. She has pretty low defense, so not the best support stats for her, but I mean, you can use her in various areas because she does have the AoE decreased defense, so she can be very useful in lots of different areas outside of faction wars as well. So here we go, off to the Ogryn tribes. So Ogryn actually doesn't have like they don't have a lot of legendaries, and most of them aren't really super great. So let's hop over to the epics and see what we got here. So obviously, if you have Ugo's one of the best epics in the game. She's going to excel in many areas. 3-turn cooldown with the AoE decreased defense with the block buffs. Incredible move. One of the few champions with the good kit around AoE block buffs. Very important for Hydra. Brings a kind of not a full cleanse, but a partial cleanse with the big heal here on a 4-turn cooldown. And then A1 leech, very good for like something like clan boss. You can use her in as well. So she's definitely stands out for me. Grush is actually a login champion as well. I forgot what day he comes in at. I think maybe day 120. I want to say 120. But by the time he comes, he's actually very good. So if you need somebody to help you just get through waves and dungeons, he's very good. Definitely worth putting, making him 60, getting the masteries geared up properly on your teams. The reason why is because he brings decreased attack here. He brings leech, and then he brings additional healing for your team. So he's actually a very good support champion. He keeps your team alive. You can play him in places like even clan boss because he does have the A1 leech. Just to keep your team alive. And honestly, it really depends on your pull luck. He's a bit of an old champion, so maybe by day, I forgot what day, like I said, I think it's 120, but if by 120 you don't have anything very good, I mean, he's definitely worth using, and he's going to crush it in faction wars as well, so definitely look out for him. And there's going to be some standouts here, obviously, like Maneater. If you have Maneater, he's probably going to be part of your clan boss team early. He has the unkillable block debuffs, and he brings some turn meter reduction as well. He's very good for faction wars. He's actually probably underrated for like general content. Of course, he's known for clan boss, but for general content, he's actually very solid. Eurogrim actually still very good. He has the speed aura in all battles, which helps your whole team. He brings some cleansing, he brings some healing, and then he brings more continuous heals for your whole team. So he's a decent support. He can dish out a little bit of damage as well with the poison debuffs, and of course the speed aura. If you build him, you can build him and work him towards handling solo content in normal dungeons. He can still do it. His gear threshold is a little bit higher, but he can still do it. So definitely worth having a look at, definitely worth investing in. All right, moving on. So we got Lizardman. So of the Lizardmen, if you have Razen's going to be very good for your faction wars. He has the AoE decreased turn meter reduction on a AoE attack. It's super outdated now. This should be like maybe like a 3-turn cooldown now, or make it hit super hard. He has the single target decreased defense and weaken, very good for clan boss, and obviously single bosses, otherwise not very good. He has a triple hit with a chance to remove buffs. Very good skill, actually. Comes in handy once in a while, and it actually hits pretty hard. Good stats overall for like a damage dealing defense based champion. He's a little bit slow, his base stat, but if you have him, if you've used him early, he's going to be in your faction wars team. And then the epics here are kind of thin, but you know, we got to make the best of it, right? So here we go. Like Broadmaw. If you look at Broadmaw kind of sucks, but if you're obviously limited on your roster, you got nothing else going on, he's actually quite okay for something like Faction Wars. You're gonna use him again in secret rooms for Doom Tower, so he's not a total loss if you have to 60 him, for example, to get through to get through Faction Wars. He brings the A1 chance to freeze, which is good just to control like one single champion. He brings some buffs for your team, which is fine. And then of course he brings the 4-turn cooldown revive, which is very necessary for something like Faction Wars. So he's not totally useless. And like I said, you will be using him again in Doom Tower secret rooms. So definitely give him a good look. If you have him, these champions are also really good. Scathix is excellent. He has a steal on a 3-turn cooldown, and then he has a kind of a cleanse with a block debuff and shield, so he keeps your team alive on a 4-turn. Very, very solid champion. You'll probably find use cases for him in other areas of the game. It's actually a very, very decent champion overall, and as a cleanser it can be useful for even something like Arena, for example. After that we have Venomage. Venomage is one of the best epics for this faction for sure. She can basically solo the Doom Tower secret room Lizardman only. A double hit here with the chance to activate some poisons. Places decreased defense, decreased attack. Very good. Can even be very good in clan boss. And then she places the poisons here, and she has a passive that inflicts, lets her take less damage from enemies under the heal reduction. So very good for even something like clan boss. Like I said, she can solo the secret rooms Lizardman only, and she's obviously very, very good for Faction Wars. So make sure you guys check those out if you guys are needing some help for Faction Wars. Moving on, we got Skinwalkers here. So Skinwalkers, depending when you start, obviously Sun Wukong is going to be massive. So if you started when Sun Wukong was here, he's going to be massive for this faction. Obviously big damage here. I would gear him as a damage dealer and just wreck waves. So for sure he belongs on any Faction Wars team or just progression. Moving on here, Steel Skull is actually going to be one of the better epics that's going to be used in Faction Wars. He brings poison, which is used to take down the boss. The boss for this this faction that steals the HP, so you actually need some significant damage against the boss to take him down. So Steel Skull actually brings like poisons and stuff to take him out. He also brings some survivability, which is good because obviously in a match where the boss has basically extra health, you need something to keep your team alive. This is where like somebody like Horfreeze is actually really good. He brings the team revive here. Well, not team revive, but you know, brings a revive. Also some useful buffs here. So the hippo is going to be definitely very useful for Skinwalkers. Another epic that actually I've seen get used quite a bit is actually the Black Bear. The Black Bear has the chance to decrease turn meter, which is actually really good against the boss. It keeps the boss's turn meter down just for a little bit, so he doesn't do the health swap, for example, or wipe your team. Also brings a decreased attack, which makes the boss a little bit more manageable. So in a pinch he can be okay, but you're not going to use him outside of Faction Wars, so maybe keep him as a 50. So that'll be his role there. All right, so popping out we got the Orcs. So moving on to the Orcs here, assuming you guys have no legendaries. If you guys have Artak, Artak's going to be a big carry here, but assuming you don't have Artak, we're going to look down at the epics. Definitely one of the harder factions to deal with here, namely because they don't really have like insane revivers. I mean, you could use Old Hermit here for a revive, 5-turn cooldown revive, so it's a little bit worse than like Hippo, for example. Shaman has a revive too, but she just kind of sucks everywhere. So the way you kind of do this is, personally, I think what I did was, if you have Seer brings a good amount of damage, so that's going to help you out quite a bit. Zargala is actually quite decent because she can bring some extra damage. She also brings AoE decreased defense, although it's on a 4-turn cooldown, so it's not really the best AoE decreased defense, but she can hit kind of decent. Duck here, Duck has the AoE decreased defense as well on a 3-turn cooldown, so he can be used as well. Vrask is actually a pretty good MVP here. Just give him 100% crit rate, and then he will full team heal your team every time he A1s. He doesn't need to do anything, just A1, keep your team healed up, and then you guys can get through the waves and get through the boss as well. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind. I think Vrask would be pretty MVP here if you have a limited roster. Maroka, I think, is interesting too. It has the remove all debuffs for a single target, and then she has a revive on death, which is basically like a revive. So you can definitely give her a look as well. I think she's used in some Sand Devil teams, so you might be able to get some extra value from her outside of Faction Wars as well. All right, let's hop over to Demonspawn. So Demonspawn, yeah, basically you're going to get Drexar at some point. If you have Drexar, he's going to be massive. Drexar deserves his own video, to be honest. Similar to Scylla the Drakes, how incredibly awesome these champions are, and like they were so awesome for my account when I first started playing, and when I first got these guys. He has the AoE provoke, which is great, and then of course he has the passive that basically when he gets hit, he has a chance of placing HP burn. So he's just like continuous, reliable damage against whatever, anything, waves, bosses, whatever. So he's just a great champion. He's tanky, good base stats. So if you have him, you're going to be using him here for sure. For the epics that shine in this Demonspawn's actually a little bit difficult because the boss places a freeze on you guys, and needs to be turn meter control. So the best for turn meter control is kind of like allure. If you can get the allure to the boss, the allure can kind of take care of the boss. Another champion like Dur brings a revive, which is very useful, obviously, at keeping everybody going. Demonspawn is like really good because obviously Duchess is in this faction, but outside of Duchess, the faction wars actually doesn't. It gets kind of a little bit more difficult. Umbral Enchantress is great. She brings the AoE block buffs, and then she brings a provoke, so she can control the waves, try to get you to the boss. So she's probably worth a look. She can be used in arena and obviously some beginner Hydra stuff, but obviously her use case is going to drop off pretty fast. Gorlos brings AoE decreased defense, which could help you like blow through the waves a little bit, so he can be useful for that. Magnar's premium epic nuker. It can be used in arena obviously, but just general wave clearing, he's very, very strong. Lastly, Atrak can do some work for you as well, placing freeze or HP burn. Also has a little bit of a team buff here just to help you guys out. Has a little bit of a heal or turn meter fill, so a little bit of support, so he can be pretty good for this faction as well. Quickly over to the Undeads. Very good legendaries in this faction, but I mean none of them are free. I mean outside of Uros can be used in faction wars, but I assume if you got Uros from hard Doomtar, I assume you probably finished faction wars, so I'm not going to include him here. For the epics, this is actually quite difficult. Undead, if you don't have like the obviously very strong legendaries. So key here would be Goregrab. Goregrab is kind of like, you know, a softer version of Arbiter. He doesn't bring speed or unfortunately just for arena, similar to Arbiter. Has a A1 steal, and then he has the turn meter fill, increased attack, and then team revive. The big one obviously is a team revive here. You have to give Goregrab a little bit more HP so he's not targeted down, so he can revive your team. Very, very good champion to invest in. Although his use cases will drop off after you pick up Arbiter, obviously you're not going to use him very often. Seeker is going to be very good here. He brings the A1 provoke, also more turn meter boost, give your team a little bit faster. Also has increased defense when he gets hit for your whole team, so it can be very, very solid. You're going to use him in a lot of places anyway, so you might as well build him up properly. Husk also has an A1 provoke, and he brings a little bit of extra damage here as well, so Husk definitely worth building up as well. Also used in Hydra, so you're going to get a lot of uses out of him. Vogoth would be a nice team carry here. He brings a AoE provoke, which can help you control some of the waves, and then obviously his passive will keep your team nice and topped up. To defeat this boss, it's a little bit difficult, but it's basically just trying to manage your Goregrab revive, because the final boss has the big one single target hit, which can basically kill anybody. It ignores a bunch of stuff. So the best case scenario is if the boss targets somebody else, and then Goregrab is able to revive everybody, and then you guys are able to kill the boss just before the boss can kill anybody else. So it's a little bit tricky, but definitely manageable if you have Goregrab for sure. All right, so into Dark Elves. So Dark Elves, you actually get Visix. So Visix, you get her at day 270, which is 9 months into this game. She's massive help. I mean, her plus Seal the Drakes, they basically kind of do the same thing, right? They're just incredible like wave control champions. But if you put them together, it just kind of get bonkers what they can do, especially for something like hard Doom Tower. So I assume once you're 9 months into the game, Visix comes in and is able to help you strengthen your wave CC abilities. She's definitely worth being a 60. She has the decreased speed here, ally protection, and then she has the AoE provoke, and then she has the A1 turn meter reduction. She can be used in places like I used her actually against Dark Fae when I didn't have a lure because of her A1, basically just to reduce turn meter. We can definitely find lots of places for her. She's actually really good in Hydra as well. She brings the provoke, the speed down. So she can be used in Hydra as well. Definitely worth 6C'ing and using. She's going to carry you through faction wars here. As for the epics, Caden here is actually quite decent. Brings the AoE decrease attack, and then he has the 2 ally revive, so just in case you guys need a revive. If you don't have Caden, Fang Cleric also has a revive, but Fang Cleric is going to be strictly like a faction war champion most likely. Same thing with Caden, but Caden was used in some of my dungeon content when I was like progressing through. Sylar can be okay too. She brings the decreased accuracy AoE and then decreased speed with a turn meter reduction or A1. She has the speed aura in faction crypts as well. It can be useful for Spider. So if she is in a stun set or something, she can maybe even help you in like Doom Tower waves, but I'm not going to assume that you guys have any particular sets when you're progressing through this level of faction wars. A little bit harder difficulty faction, I think, just because the epics are not overly strong. I did have to use who did I have to use here? I had to use Fang Cleric. I had to use Madame Sirius just basically to help decrease attack, and then she had like a steal here. But yeah, I think my main damage dealer for this was actually KO when I was progressing through. Cold Heart's going to be the standout MVP here as well. If you have Cold Heart, she can do tons of damage to the boss. She can help you get through waves. But I had to use KO for my damage dealer and Cold Heart as well, being supported by Visix and Caden. Most likely. So I mean, it's definitely doable, but it's going to come down to whether you have Visix, whether you have Cold Heart, and yeah. So moving on, we got the Night Revs here. Night Revs, who do we got for freebies? We got no freebies here. If you have Versoff, I definitely recommend you not using Versoff. This is an extremely hard faction, depending what you have available to you. If you have end game legendaries, this can be very fast, one of the fastest ones for you. But if you don't, this can be one of the most painful ones for you. And this was the most painful one for me. The way I did this faction was Versoff was my damage dealer, and I put him in destroy set. Once I got to the boss does the health swap ability. I put Versoff in a destroy set, and basically every time Versoff would hit him, his War Master would proc, and then the destroy set would take some max HP off the boss. Eventually he got low enough that I was able to kill him before he was able to take 12 turns and then exchange health or whatever. But the total fight took 90 minutes for that final 21 stage. So this is an incredibly challenging stage depending on what you guys have. I don't recommend using Versoff because on wave 2 you're up against Valkyries, and Versoff's A1 literally places a shield every time, and it's just going to boost the turn meters of the Valkyries. The increased defense, ally protection does basically nothing and against the Valkyries. It keeps your team alive, but it's going to boost the Valkyries, and the boss on the final boss will be able to steal the ally protection as well. So he's just not a great champion here. He's a very decent champion in many areas of the game, but for faction war he's not going to be very good. But I had to use him. There's no other choice, right? You gotta use what you gotta do. So let's move on. If you have somebody like Skullcrown, very good. It has the unkillable as well. Going to be used for arena if you have her, or an arena nuker as well. So some good use cases here. So Skullcrown, Sinacia, in the same kind of idea. Put them in stun sets. Any stun sets will help you guys get through the Valkyrie waves. Rector Draft is actually okay. It gives you the revive, which is like an extra insurance policy just in case the run goes really bad. Doom Priest can be okay too. Just a little bit of healing, keep your team going. Removing debuffs is actually quite nice. And then lastly, you can need some kind of damage dealer to kill the Valkyries. So Whisper or Faceless can actually do quite a bit of damage to the Valkyries. They need good gear, and Faceless won't be used outside of Faction Wars, but Whisper can be used in Hydra, for example. So they can do some damage, at least good enough damage to kill the Valkyries, and then you can move on to the boss. And again, you need some damage against the boss unless you want to run a destroy set, because the boss will exchange HP all the way back to full health and be very annoying that way. Another shout out here is actually Miscreate Monster. He brings the AoE stun, which is actually very good at controlling waves. However, against the boss, you don't want to use this move, his continuous heal and allied protection, because the boss can steal that and then recover. So he's probably going to be regulated to just using the A1 against the boss. So he's not going to be very good against the boss, but he's very good against the waves leading up to the boss. Overall, very challenging faction. So moving on to the Dwarves. So the Dwarves here, assuming you guys have no legendaries here, this is a very challenging faction if you have none of these. Initially, I think I have Herndig. Herndig is actually massive because he's actually just a good damage dealer and he has turn meter drop. So I used Herndig, was able to get through this faction relatively easily. Now with champions like Nut and Nut is basically just going to demolish this boss, for example. But if you're coming in here with just epics, for example, Melga can be okay. She brings a revive. She brings some protection for your team, so you can bring her in. Gala can deal some damage. She requires being under a shield. She has to be under a shield to get some mega damage. So definitely consider her. She can be used in some arena situations. As well, Rockbreaker, strictly a Faction Wars champion, but he brings some provoke. He brings some damage as well. So I know he can do some stuff. Who else do we got here? Obviously, if you have somebody like Demitha, you can bring Demitha in. She's going to be in your clan boss team most likely. She brings block damage, protect your team. Also has a bit of a heal here, team-wide heal. Geomancer can be good for damage. Obviously his HP burn can do a lot of damage against the boss or just the waves. He also brings the AoE decreased accuracy, which is kind of useful, but he's just a goat all over this game. So as you can clearly see, I actually don't have him. He's one of the few epics I don't have on my account. Yeah, how did I live without him, right? Anyways, so that's going to be the Dwarves. Very challenging faction as well, especially if you don't have any of the key legendaries. Just something you're going to have to work with. Shadowkin, one of the newer factions. I don't have I don't have a beginner mindset knowledge of going through Faction Wars for Shadowkin, because obviously when Shadowkin was released, I was already probably entering the end game, so this faction was like no issue at all for me. Depending what you have, you might not have any legendaries available to you, so I would assume you do not have any. As for what you can invest in here, Taragi is actually like excellent champion. He can be used in clan boss. He brings great protection for your team, ally protection, shields. He brings AoE provoke on a 3-turn cooldown, and he brings also decreased attack, and he has poisons as well. So he's good against all situations, right? All situations, and he can be used in clan boss as well. So just a great champion overall. You can use Gembo as well just for some damage. He brings some speed aura for the arena. You can use him as your damage dealer in arena as well. He can help you clear the waves here. Another champion that might be worth taking a look at is Hatatsu. Hatatsu brings increased defense with the continuous heal, so he helps your team stay alive, and then he brings a decreased attack against the enemy, again keeping your team alive. His A1 also brings a leech, which can be useful for clan boss, so you can definitely use him for clan boss or faction wars. So a little bit extra duty for him if you need to 60 him, for example, just to get through faction wars. All right, so lastly, we got Sylvari Watchers here. Again, I'm going to assume you have no legendaries available to you. We'll just hop into the epics here. We do have some pretty good epics here. We have Creoldin. Creoldin is very good against Fire Knight Hard. Definitely worth 60ing. Is a very good epic. Is that triple hit. He has very good crowd control ability, so he can AoE freeze, and then he has increased speed with the turn meter boost. Very, very decent, very solid champion actually, and especially very good against Fire Knight. Nia's very good. It has the ally protection strengthen on your whole team to keep your team alive. Has a single target cleanse with a reset and a big heal on a single target. Very good, and an AoE decreased speed. Very useful in like some places like Hydra. Very, very useful in Hydra, and obviously very good just as an overall team support champion. Daithie is actually very good. Brings AoE decreased defense here. Self-buffing, extra turns. He does quite a bit of damage. If you have like just Daithie, he can probably do enough damage to help you clear the waves by himself. Rel is also another champion that gets some play in other areas of the game. Fire Knight, Shogun, even a Sand Devil. So she has a triple hit here. She has a triple debuff here, which is really nice. And then she has a team turn meter buff, turn meter boost with the increased crit rate. Very solid champion, good support champion, can do a little bit of damage, and very useful in many areas. So definitely worth a 60 for her as well. Yeah, the epic selection here is actually quite decent. Even Priest Ornn here. Priest Ornn's one of the better solo options for like normal dragon, for example. He's hard to kill. He brings poison sensitivities. Brings his own detonating of poisons, and then his A1 brings poisons. In terms of like gearing, you can definitely gear him in just regeneration and just speed, so you can basically solo some content for you, help you in dragon content. But he's going to be really good in faction wars as well. Definitely worth the 60 if you have him. Good selection of epics for Sylvari Watchers, so you don't really need legendaries to get through this faction. Alright guys, that's going to be it for the video. I mean, it's a little bit of a longer one, so thank you guys for sticking around. We also, I want to bring an attention here just for a quick second. We also have one more faction yet to be released. So Player most likely will give us a couple months heads up before this faction opens up. And it'll give people a chance to finish the faction wars. That's basically what happened for me when they announced the Shadowkin faction. I basically got on my horse and then just dedicated effort to finish off faction wars before I would have to finish Shadowkin. They'll probably give us a little bit of heads up when this faction is ready to be released, but definitely work on your faction wars every day, guys. If you guys didn't know, make sure you guys do level 21 because farming level 21 gives you a little bit more materials. Even though the glyph chance is the same, it gives you a little bit more material drops. I think overall it appears quite daunting, but if you just look at it every day as something like, hey, I want to progress in this area 1 level, 1 star a day, and I think that'll make it a lot more easier and more natural in your progression just playing through this game. If you just say to yourself, whenever a crypt opens for a day, saying, hey, I'm going to add 1 star to this crypt if I can, and then work towards that, eventually you'll get the main prize, Lydia here, and she's going to help you out a lot. She's excellent in Doom Tower, and that's kind of where you need her when you get her. So once you get her, she's going to be immediate help in Doom Tower. So it kind of lines up in terms of the progression of this game. And then, of course, once you start getting everything on farm, you guys can get some of the big glyphs and obviously more materials, so you guys can farm more of the perception, resilience, and also get more silver, because this is a good source of silver, right? Just getting materials, crafting gear, and selling off undesirable pieces. But anyways, guys, that's gonna be it for the video. Hopefully it was helpful to you guys. A little bit of a longer one, a little bit of an early mid-game type guide. I wanted to give you guys my perspective on what are good investments, where champions can be used outside faction wars, because the last thing you want to do is 60 a champion just for faction wars, and then you're going to vault that champion. I definitely don't want to do that. I tried my best not to do that, just to be efficient with resources. But anyways, guys, that's going to be it for the video. Appreciate you all for sticking around, and I'll see you guys in the next video.